Hi everybody, it's Anne with Art on the Creek. Welcome back to my home studio in Parker, Colorado. I heard you. You asked for reviews on watercolor brushes, and today we're going to begin to open Pandora's box. So grab a cup of coffee. I'll try and make this pretty concise, and we'll go through the different types of brushes you can buy, and I will try and help you decide how to pick the right brush for you. Are you ready? Let's give this a go. When you're looking for watercolor brushes, probably the most important thing that you can consider is, well, there's a couple of things. First of all, getting a watercolor brush is a very personal choice. If you are one to not believe in any use of animal products whatsoever, there are plenty of brushes out there that are synthetic, that are great performers, and so those are the ones you're going to want to look for. If that doesn't matter to you, there are plenty of brushes out there that have natural animal hair that are also going to perform very well. In fact, excellently, and those are the ones that you would want to look for. However, if you're a beginner, definitely recommend the man-made fibers. The reason for that is that the bristles are going to give you a lot more response. Watercolor is this beast that likes to just travel on its own. It likes to just go wherever it wants to go. A brush like this, where you're going to have this this man-made fiber, it's going to give you more snap. It's going to be able to rebound and give you more feedback. When you're using this brush to paint with, you're going to get a response from the paper, from the paint, from the pressure. You're going to feel exactly what you're doing, and that paint is going to stay more controlled. Part of the reason is these brushes don't hold as much water as a natural hair brush is. That's in general. There are some brands that will belie what I'm saying, but in general, that's the way it is. So the natural fiber brushes, it's good if you're just starting out to wait on those and to start with a man-made fiber. There are many to choose from. You can choose Royal and Langnickel. Princeton Silver Brush Company has several different lines. These two are by Blick Art Materials. They're beautiful brushes. They're master stroke. The advantage of all of these too is that you can use them on other medias. You can use them on gouache as well. I would shy away from using a natural hair fiber on a gouache painting just simply because it's a little less, it's more difficult to control the paint. Watercolor loves to spread. If you're using a very washed down, very watered down gouache, that wouldn't be a problem, but typically you use gouache a little bit thicker. So it's all in your style and what you want to do. That's why it's such a personal choice. Now these here, they were advertised as goat hair. Not sure if that's true given the price. I got them on Amazon. I got them for my daughter because she wanted to learn how to paint, and she is an adult, so these were a good entry-level brush for her. I think that there are different levels of nylon fibers or Taklon, whatever the man-made fiber is. There are different tiers, just as much as there are different tiers of animal fibers. Look at your price point. If something is coming in at a pretty low price point and they're billing it as an animal hair brush, chances are it's a lower grade, which I think is what these are. That's not to say these are bad brushes. It's just that the quality may not last you quite as long. So these are your basic entry-level brushes. If you want to look for some fibers that don't look like hair, something like that, that's a good indicator. Of course, you can always ask for help in the art store, wherever you're shopping. Anything that says man-made fiber, anything like that. Those are going to give you a good feedback, a lot of response. They're going to last long. These are your Honda Civics, people. Good brushes. Okay, on to the next. Alrighty, let's say you've been driving that Toyota Camry for a while and you're ready for just a little bit more luxury, but you don't want to invest in anything too expensive. Enter the Lexus of brushes. These are the Mimic. They are made by Creative Mark. They are completely synthetic. Look at the difference there. They don't have that same snap that the others do. This is an extremely soft fiber. And even though they are 100% man-made, they perform beautifully. They hold a ton of water. The only one that I have used almost all the life out of is this one here, and you can see the point starts to look a little funky. Let me get it wet for you. I've got my spray bottle of water here, and I will show you. When that point starts to not be able to mesh altogether, that's when you know it's time to either trim the brush, try a brush conditioner, or replace it. I don't replace brushes until they are matted, worn, done. So I can still use this one. When you splay a brush out on your palette like so, then it becomes excellent for making animal fur. So there's lots of good ways to use up a brush that doesn't appear to have a lot of life left. I am very happy with these. I didn't purchase them all individually. Some of them I purchased as sets. In fact, I think I got 2 or 3 sets here. This one is great to brush off crumbs if that's what you want to do. It's amazing as a wash brush, but I also like using it to brush off crumbs. The liner brush here is great as well, which is a good bonus to have when you're doing little details. I would say this brush here is not quite fine enough to do the real detail, like if you're doing animal eyes or human eyes, anything like that. It's a number 2. You're going to want something a little finer, which brings us to our next series, next in the series. Move these out of the way. I will zoom in for these for you. These are the Trekell Imitation Sable brushes. It is their protege line. I have an 3 through a 6, I believe. Let me show you the smallest one I have. It is the 3. This one here. Great amount of detail with it. Even on that tiny, tiny brush, it still has a belly and a point. So the belly of the brush, the fullest part here, there you go, will hold the pigment and the water, and then the point obviously can let you get down to the detail. So these are an imitation Kolinsky Sable. The Kolinsky Sable is the end-all be-all for watercolor brushes, but these are an imitation fiber, and they perform really beautifully. When you're done with your Lexus, or if you want to augment, get a second car, these would be like the Acura, the MDX. They are going to give you a little bit more capability on the road, on your paper, because like a 4-wheel drive, they will enable you to go on terrain where you couldn't go before. They're really reliable, they're good, they're going to last you a long time, and they're not that much of an investment. So the Trekell, and they're a good company to work with too. Now, before I show you these next ones, let me tell you what car I drive. I drive a 2016 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland. This car has just about every luxury bell and whistle on it that you can have. And these, my friends, these brushes here are the Jeep Cherokee of brushes. The Overland, the model I have. These are amazing. These brushes are 100% synthetic. Synthetic Squirrel, the Princeton Neptune. But look at this softness. I mean, it is amazing. You have a little bit more control than you do in the Mimics. It holds their point a lot better, and they're so well made. They last forever and ever and ever. Let me show you the one. Is this it? Yeah, the number 8, the one I use all the time. Let me get this wet. Look at that. Like it was new, and look at that point. I mean, that is phenomenal. This brush has served me so well. All of these brushes, I grab these. This is the set that I go to for just about everything. I love the way they feel. They have a wooden handle. It's very ergonomic for me. Some of you may not like to use wood. That's fine. There are a lot of handles you can get out there that are not made of wood, but these are made of real wood. I love them. This Mottler brush holds an amazing amount of water. I love this thing. And it's also good for dusting off crumbs if you need to. These are my car. These are the ones that I love the most. The Princeton Neptune. Love these brushes. So you know where my preferences lie. I'm a Jeep person. But same manufacturer, not same manufacturer of paintbrush, but same manufacturer of automobile, the Dodge Durango. I'm not as big of a fan of that car, but it's still a decent vehicle. I'd put these in that category. Now remember, I'm from Colorado, so a 4-wheel drive is kind of a necessary thing. So these silver black velvets are, for me, the Dodge Durango of paintbrushes. They will get you where you want to go. They are very reliable. They are a blend of natural squirrel hair and black synthetic filament. I feel like I enjoy painting more with these than I do with these. These are fabulous brushes, though. Don't get me wrong. Just about every YouTube artist you see will have one of these in their hands. They are beautiful brushes. They will get you beautiful results. By the way, let me mention, there is not one paintbrush that is going to make you a better artist. What makes you a better artist is practice, just like Carnegie Hall. That's how you get there, is you practice. But I just prefer these. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's feeling the wood grain. It's just beautiful. But as far as brushes go, these are really pretty comparable. But this one, I prefer. This one would be my number 2 choice. I think part of the reason is I bought these 2 brushes at the same time. Here is that number 8 of the Princeton. Now let me get this silver black velvet wet. Same thing. I'm going to get it wet. I'm going to reshape it. Do you see how that filament there is starting to come out? It's just beginning to lose its point, whereas the Princeton is maintaining its point throughout. Not point, shape, I should say. I don't know if I can zoom in close enough, but you can see that the fibers on the black one, the filaments are just starting to splay out a little bit. They're just not as uniform as they are on the Princeton. These brushes are the same age, and I can honestly say they've got an equal use. I have had to re-glue this one and put some tape around it, but you know, I will do that in brushes. That happens to brushes. It's just never happened to me with a Princeton. So this one, not as good for me. It's like going from a 10 to a 9.5. So you will not make a mistake getting these silver black velvet brushes. I just prefer the Princeton Neptune. So there you go. I've said it. I made my opinion known. Let's go over to Italy and let's get into the Lamborghini of paintbrushes. Now this is the Cosmotop Mix B. It's a mix of natural hair and synthetic hair, and this brush is just going to perform like a dream. As soon as you get into these different grades of brushes, you're going to experience a little bit you're going to experience a little bit less control over the watercolor. This is for the pure pleasure of painting. You are going to be able to manipulate the watercolor. Once you really know how the paint can do what it does, something like this is a wonderful tool to have in your tool belt. Let's look at the Winsor Newton Sable watercolor brushes. Let's talk about the Series 7 first. This one was designed by Queen Victoria herself, the standards for it. And this one, I'll get wet again for you, has a very fat belly, a beautiful point. This car, if you drove a Bentley or paint with this, you are going to feel like you are just painting through butter. These are beautiful brushes. I love the Series 7. They are made from the tail fur of the Kolinsky Sable, and they are considered by many to be the world's finest paintbrushes. The Series 7, this is the only one I have. I love it. I would love to have more. These are just beautiful. I just can't say enough about it. It's just like one of those things where once you have this, you may not want to go back. So beware. Now the other one that Winsor Newton makes, well, they make several. These are not quite as luxurious as the Series 7, but they are magnificent. This is the one stroke, and it lives up to its name. It has this ergonomic shape. The wood feels different on the handle, although I can't speak to how it's made, but set this baby down. This has a very nice ergonomic grip. It's very comfortable to hold. All of the ferrules on these brushes are seamless. This one is wet also. It is Kolinsky Sable. It says here that they have perfectly matched this brush to their artist watercolor paints. That's just marketing, but these are beautiful brushes. This series of professional quality watercolor brushes features specially selected Kolinsky sable. The price range on these is not as steep as on the Series 7, so I think the specially selected might just mean that it's not as expensive a grade of fur as these. These were chosen specifically from the tail, and these are probably any of the hair on the animal anywhere. That is my guess. Don't quote me on that, I'm not certain. But both of these, absolutely a Bentley in the book. Every watercolor artist should have a palette knife. You can make the most interesting effects with a palette knife or with a credit card that you've cut up. Anything that you can use to have an edge like this, you can use it to make marks in your watercolor paper, and then the paint will hang out in there a little bit differently. You can use it to scrape off, to make rocks, and to scrape in highlights. You would do so gently so that it wouldn't hurt your paper, but these are nicely flexible, so you can get a lot of great use out of these. Another thing that I highly suggest that you have in your arsenal is the humble twig. This one, it does have paint on it because I've used it. Same sort of principle. You can use it to scratch designs in or to paint with. You can dip it in paint and make some cool primitive lines like this. I just took it and put it into the electric pencil sharpener and made a point. In fact, it's almost ready to be sharpened again, but a twig. One that I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't mention are the handmade brushes by Tracy LeBenson. These things are just dynamite. The handles are made of bamboo. They are ergonomic. They're beautiful. I want to get this wet so that you can see exactly the kind of point we're talking about here. This particular one is the synthetic goat and synthetic blend rather. Look at that tip on there. If you're making whiskers, any kind of hair, if you're doing portraiture, eyelashes, this brush is absolutely amazing. I've used it for grasses. I've used it for just about anything. This brush is phenomenal for getting into fine detail. This is the best detail brush that I have, hands down. And this one here has a good fat belly on it. It also comes to a great point. Right there, you can see that. And both of these brushes are very ergonomic to hold. I love these brushes. I have zero disappointment, zero regrets in buying them. I take very good care of them. When I'm done with these, let me zoom out so I can show you what I do. These little toggle elastic things kind of came with it, and then I attached them to this little stick that I found. It's probably like a chopstick. You could use a chopstick or a bamboo skewer. So when they're wet, I hang them up like so, and I balance them between two of my empty water jars when I'm done painting, and I let them dry like that. So they're perfectly stable and protected, and they will dry without water getting back up into the brush. The best advice I can give you for using a paintbrush is to get the one that feels best to you, that is most comfortable for the kind of painting that you want to accomplish, and that you can take care of. That's the most important thing, guys. All right. Hope this was helpful. Leave a note in the comments and let me know if you have some other brushes that you use that I didn't cover. I know that there are a million out there, and I certainly don't have them all. So I'm sure you guys have some great ideas too. Okay. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.